Alright, and we're back, which means it's time for kayfabe issues. Gunner, hit my sound.
No.
Gunner, play my sound.
You mad? Does that upset you? Am I under your skin right now?
No sound available.
Oh. Well, that's useful.
I can always play Ding Dong the Witch is Dead.
Don't dare.
Don't you fucking do it. So we're gonna go into overtime. Can I get my my bell sound?
Get my bags! Get my bags!
For the love of fuck.
I need to see the board cloning.
Alright, this is overtime, and we're going to talk about Daniel Bryan defeating Triple H to advance to the... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Omega. I thought this was my segment, but apparently I was wrong.
Well, let me get my quick word in about The Undertaker and everything. First of all, I do believe that was the ending that was planned, yes. I
agree.
I think this is probably something they had planned years ago when they had that UFC stare down and the potential, I'm sure Taker, I really think Taker wanted Lesnar to be the one. If not because of the fact that Lesnar is Lesnar and, realistically he should be able to dismantle anybody, I think because of the fact that, he is sort of the... Like I said, he had to hang it up at some point. He had to let it go, and I really, really believe that The Undertaker did not want the streak to go undefeated throughout his career. We know of at least, we know he tried to give it to Kane at least one time, and Kane refused, and, I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to give it to Michaels too, and Michaels refused, and, who knows, for all we know, Lesnar's the one who was willing to say, yeah, I'll take it, But, I think where it's become such a point of contention, it's not so much the fact that the streak ended, because realistically, it could have ended, any time in the last 5 years. I mean, you talk about how it wasn't really a thing until 21. They had mentioned it before. I remember, I think, at WrestleMania 19, him holding up his fingers, 10 fingers, to say, yeah, that's 10 victories. And it wasn't a huge deal yet, granted. And, when you put on matches like The Undertaker versus Mark Henry in a casket match at WrestleMania, that's not exactly a marquee match on the level of a match with Michaels, for example. But I think overall, what the point of contention is the fact that, A, Lesnar himself is not really a big player anymore. For all we know, that could have been Lesnar's last match, He'll probably go away until SummerSlam again. And people probably think...
Yes.
Yeah, people... not that it necessarily had to be an up-and-comer to be the one that ended it, but, when you think about Lesnar, you think about somebody who, again, could just as easily, go away and never come back. And B... the fact that the match itself was not very good. I mean, it wasn't bad, but probably the worst match since before the first Michaels match. Which is to say, you have Undertaker who, again, getting older, he can't, he has to be a lot more methodical in these matches, he can't be too enthusiastic. And then Lesnar has to scale it way down to his level. Lesnar, who already has to basically keep himself from, legitimately breaking somebody's bones when he does things. And so what you ended up with was sort of a kind of a weak-willed match in a way, when The Undertaker would do a move on Lesnar, and Lesnar really had to act like he had been, shocked with some kind of supernatural force, and that just makes for not a fantastic match. And they didn't really do anything that was shocking or unique. It was just the fact, again, the biggest thing about the match was the fact that Lesnar did get the 3, so...
But that feeds into conspiracy theories, which I will mention real quickly. Before I left for work today, I was online visiting almost every site on God's green earth, and not only did legitimate sports sites have the story about the Undertaker streak being broken at WrestleMania 30, all the internet wrestling boards were saying that this couldn't possibly be the end, that somehow during the match, Lesnar had hurt Undertaker with a botched move, and they needed to stop it, and that's how Lesnar got the 1, 2, 3. And
well, listen. It is a fact that The Undertaker suffered a concussion, and he suffered it at some point during the match, and that just made things even harder to bring home. That's truthful. That's a reality. But as far as some conspiracy where, Taker was supposed to kick out or Lesnar did something wrong, I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's the fact that, again, The Undertaker, he can't go on forever, and if it's going to end, if he had to give it to somebody, Lesnar is, I think in his mind, Lesnar is as good as anybody, and I think, he didn't want the streak to go unbeaten, and it is kind of a shame for us wrestling fans, because WWE had treated it like their most important thing for years, really, but that's kind of how these things go. And, you bring up these rumors of Sting coming in. Everybody's saying without saying that he's coming in. I think Taker might have one last match in him to do the dream match with Sting, and I think that match on its own is strong enough to be a dream match without, the idea of the streak behind it.
All right, well, let's get into Daniel Bryan versus Triple H.
This was an awfully good qualifier. I was surprised at how, not only that this was the first match of the night, but actually how good it was. How long it went on, and it really showcased Bryan, which had me worrying about near the ending if he was going to have enough gas in the tank for the triple threat at the end.
Okay, Net Jester, your opinion is moot because you continue to call Daniel Bryan Daniel Bryant. Anyone else want to weigh in?
Oh yeah, Daniel Bryan versus Triple H was a perfect match. It was the perfect. This was the perfect WrestleMania moment that was designed to be able to sit there and say, you know what, we're going to do something cool, and we're going to put him over because we can. So now we're sitting here, and it's set up so perfectly to be the complete and total underdog. I mean, he's got the authority against him. He's screwed at every other avenue. He's not exactly sitting there and doing quite well. I mean, his shoulder's all banged up, and it was just the perfect underdog story. I mean, if there was Cena saying it, everybody would be rolling in their fucking seats. But, I mean, it's Bryan, and they gave it to Bryan, and holy crap, they actually gave it to Bryan. I think that's the problem.
Problem?
I didn't think there was any problem at all.
Well, I mean, that's that problem's not the word I'm looking for.
I'll say that, I was surprised it was the first match, but as a qualifier, yes, it was a pretty perfect match. It wasn't too intensive. It wasn't. Some people will call it best match of the night. I'm not sure. I guess what I'm getting at is it was an extremely good match, but I don't remember anything really super unique or remarkable about it, except for maybe Bryan doing that front roll off the top to the floor onto Triple H. What I'm saying is it was the first match of the night, and it was him getting one over on Triple H, and it was really more about him advancing to the main event where all the real magic happened, I guess is what I'm saying. So it was a good technical match that was good to watch and kept you interested in all that stuff, and came to its desired conclusion. It worked very well.
It's interesting that you said a good technical match, because that's exactly what it was. I forgot what a good wrestler Triple H actually is.
It's kind of hard to do, to be completely honest. He's a 7 out of 10. I mean, you got to remember, he's a 7 out of 10. Booked as a 9 out of 10. Who the fans think are a 4 out of 10, etc., etc., etc.
It's just he's been just really a brawler for so long. I forgot that he was even able of executing these wrestling moves and making them. When he busted out that friggin' chicken wing, I marked in my shorts.
Absolutely.
That's kind of the thing about Triple H, too. He's never really been the star. He's been the guy that makes the star look good, which he's always been good at. And that's basically what a heel is in the first place, anyway. It's just when they try to make him look like the star, that's when it usually falls apart, which they have done a lot. But the reality is he and everyone else who played their role in this whole saga did it extremely well, going into the main event. Which, like I said, I think is where all the real magic happened. And it followed this modern WrestleMania format of a good, solid, technical match on the undercard, and then the main event is where you sort of have not as long a match, not as technical a match, not as, 5-star classic of a match, but that is where more or less the magic happens.
Alright, well, let's get into that. Daniel Bryan defeating Orton by he defeated Orton by making Batista submit. I expected a lot more shenanigans in that match than what we actually got.
More shenanigans? Are you kidding me? That was overbooked to hell. Bringing back Mr. Armstrong. That was a crazy throwback to the fall. To make it all seem like they all tied it in. And when we remember the DVDs, we look back at it and watch it on the DVDs, it'll look like it was all tied in. But the fact of the matter remains is that this was a great match, and this was the perfect example of Bryan being able to overcome, and the ending was just perfect. The false finish was the exact false finish that I had called if Batista would have won, and then he kicked out, and then it was the finish that it should have been, which was just so much better.
I have to say that I legitimately thought that Randy had absolutely hurt himself all to hell. Sorry.
When he landed on that monitor.
Yes,
dear God. I thought he had really hurt himself.
God, I was thinking back injuries galore there. It just looked like he was writhing in pain there for a few seconds.
He really kind of got lucky because as he was starting to get up and everything, I kind of realized that, it must have really hurt, and you could see where the corner had pierced his back. And again, it must have really hurt, but it wasn't, debilitating. He could finish the match. He was just in a lot of pain.
Yeah, that really could have been a lot worse than what it was. I'm glad he's okay and he didn't really get hurt on that monitor. It was kind of funny when he looked back, like what the hell was that? And he saw the monitor. The look on his face was actually kind of amusing.
That Diet Dew bottle, extreme as it is. Which they never once opened throughout the night. Which I guess you kind of understand why.
They at least eat the chicken in the subway when that shit gets brought on.
Actually, there's a technical reason why you do that, because soda actually dries out your mouth. So if you're drinking that during the show, it'll actually, decrease the ability for you to speak. So if they were to open it and drink it, they would have a hard time speaking, and they'd probably have water and whatnot underneath and drink that instead.
But I mean, even if they had taken a sip, just the fact that they were sitting there the whole night, and then it was like, well, the whole point is for you to drink it, right? I mean, like Yankum said, they'll take a bite out of a Sonic sandwich or something.
Gunner. And the worst part is that it was Diet Dew.
They could have at least took the caps off and maybe on commercial break poured a little out under the desk or something to make it look like it was being drank.
Or just have King be the one to drink it, since he doesn't necessarily need to talk anymore.
Gunner. Connor,
What?
don't tell Yankum that, or he'll send a truckload of pop to my house.
Well, Yankum should send a truckload of pop to his house. I don't know what pop is, though.
Pop is a colloquialism for soda that old people use.
Old people?
Yes, old people call it pop.
No.
No one calls it pop anymore.
No.
Oh, you're out of your mind.
Pop is a noise. Soda is the drink.
It's commonly used in the
Cola.
South. Pop is commonly used in the South. But NJ, aren't you from New York? So how does that even work?
NJ isn't from New York. NJ is from fucking Montana. Anyway.
Oh yeah,
moving
that's
on.
right.
Is that it? Are we done talking about this?
No.
I'll say that, well, time for my final thought, so to speak. We gave WWE a lot of crap over the past half a year plus, and all of it was muchly deserved. But I will say that they really came into their element with WrestleMania, making it not just because Daniel Bryan won. The whole show, top to bottom, was, obviously you have things like the Shield match lasting a few minutes and the Divas match that you have to do for some reason.
Taker Lesnar was kind of a stinker.
Well, yeah, but top to bottom, as far as the actual hype, and this being WrestleMania 30, and this, I felt like it was a worthy event. I felt like they had done a really good job. It was one of the more enjoyable WrestleManias in some time, because you can go back several years, and every year you can point out something just completely idiotic that could have ruined the show for you, like, say, I don't know, Michael Cole versus Lawler. But they didn't really, even though there were some bummers, they didn't really have that this year. I felt like they really did make an earnest attempt to put on a really great show, that had both a good mix of great wrestling and great entertainment. So I'll give them kudos for that, and I really hope that they continue this momentum throughout the year, because we've seen what can happen when you stray.
So the next thing
right.
we've got to address is, real quick, is this, did Vince have any hand in this show whatsoever, or was it all Trips and Steph?
Oh, sure he did. They all had
he
their,
was there.
they all had their hand on the book, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you, after all this talk about pop, I kind of could go for a root beer float. You know, want anything?
Ooh, dilly bar.
To diddle with your bar? That's gross. Bro.
I could go. Yeah, as Netchester would say, I could go for a malted.
Oh my god.
I'm not that old.
Woo!
Drive-through.
Time for the Dairy Queen drive-through. Okay, time for the ratings. Yankum, you get to read the ratings.
Alright, so Impact on Thursday, April the 3rd, scored a .94 rating off the first hour and second hour. That was Impact benefiting from the Cops returning to Spike TV as the lead-in show. Impact opened with a high 1.06 rating in the first quarter, and the next closest quarter was a .96 in quarters 3 and 8. Impact, Friday on SmackDown, they scored a 1.92, which was down from last week's 2.08. The show averaged 2.71 million viewers, down from last week's 3.057 million. The rating and viewership were both down last week, but SmackDown finished first in total viewers on Friday night, which always looks nice on the Did You Know graphics. It was a 1.83 overall. Wait, that's not right. It was the 1.92. I don't know why it's talking about April 5th.
I have no idea either.
Okay, so Raw. Here we go. Raw scored a 3.7 cable rating, which is up 18% from last week's 3.147. No? Nobody? Pie?
That's pretty damn goddamn good.
Okay, by comparison, last year's post-WrestleMania show did a 3.45. And the Raw after WrestleMania 28 earned a 3.43. The show also faced very stiff competition from the NCAA Tournament Championship game, which caused a riot in Los Angeles. I'm not so sure it was about UConn as much as it was about Taker's streak being broken.
That too. Also, really? You're trying a pie joke? What do you think we are, Mensa?
No one, literally no one, thinks that you're a member of Mensa, Ned Jester.
I'm so white, during the riots, I went out and bought a casket.
Jesus.
Oh, Lord. Gotta give him the Ned Jester.
Chester.
Oh, yes. Read the
Birthdays.
happy birthdays. For this week in April, on the 10th, we have the Hall of Fame-bound Paul Bearer. Then on the 11th, the greatest manager in the history of ECW, according to me, Bill Alfonso with the chair-swinging freak, Balls Mahoney, the original King of the Ring, Harley Race, and the incredible Goldust. Then on the 12th, we have Tony Anthony and Nabuku Takada, I think.
Let me take a stab at this. Nobuhiko Takada.
All right, at least I got the last name right. Anyway, on the 13th, we have Sexy Eddie and Stan Stasiak. On the 14th, we have Brian Adams and Julio De Niro, plus also the latest member of the Hall of Fame, the lovely Miss Lita. Plus on the 15th, we have Trick Davis and Vok Han.
And now it is time for This Week in Wrestling with Omega BR.
Yes, This Week in Wrestling History, circa 1908, where Americus, otherwise known as Gus Schoenlein, defeats Fred Beal for the American middleweight title in Baltimore, Maryland. Jump to 1942, where Lobo Negro defeats Bobby Manales in a tournament final to win the Mexican national welterweight title in Mexico City, Mexico. Bobby Arola had vacated the title in November due to injury. And in 2000, Eric Bischoff and Vince Russo both returned to WCW with much fanfare, vacating every championship and announcing tournaments for them as a way of starting fresh, which would eventually begin the New Blood versus Millionaires Club storyline that took up most of the final days of WCW. Also, the surprise debut of ECW World Champion Mike Awesome, who attacked Kevin Nash, which followed an amazing bout of last-minute negotiation between WCW and ECW over 24 hours, following many rumors that Awesome was slated to appear, despite the fact that he was still under a 3-year contract with ECW, which Paul Heyman was ready to fight in court. That was This Week in Wrestling History.
Time for some happy trails. Happy trails this week to Yankum's childhood as the streak was broken. Happy trails to Ezekiel Jackson, who announced on Instagram that his contract with WWE expired on Sunday after being out over a year due to injury. And happy trails to anyone who bet on The Undertaker on various betting sites, mostly due to Brock Lesnar becoming the favorite hours before the event, despite nobody but a handful of people knowing the streak would be broken. Which happens pretty much every single match, every single time that you think that something's going to happen. Some idiots drive the odds down so that, you don't get that much of a return on it. Okay, so what should we watch this week in wrestling? Net Jester.
Well, I could be a douche about this and say anything from WrestleMania. However, if you've got the WWE Network, I would strongly suggest peeking to their library and seeing anything from the grand old days of WWE Old School, including the matches at the Cal Palace and the Boston Garden. There's some really good stuff there.
And Yankum.
Obviously, I'm going to say Bryan versus Taker because that was a surprisingly technical, surprisingly good match.
Bryan versus Taker. That's a great
Bryan
matchup.
versus Triple H.
Too bad we didn't see it.
Go fuck yourselves. You knew what I meant.
Omega BR.
Well, in honor of Yankum, I might suggest one of the many matches from the Silver Dome.
You sure it's not the Superdome? We've had a little confusion on that account.
Actually, since we brought up Mike Awesome, I'm going to suggest one of his many matches in the story feud with Masato Tanaka, which all throughout ECW and revisited on ECW One Night Stand. Of course, WCW. I would avoid his WCW stuff simply because they took one of the hottest properties in wrestling and went from making him the career killer to the fat chick thriller.
The second Disco Inferno, and God knows there was only room for one Disco Inferno in wrestling.
And his name is Michael Hayes.
Well, that too, but basically, I'd like to say that you should watch Tanahashi versus Swaigsuke from this past NJPW event. It was quite a great match. I will not spoil it for you, but let's just say it was for the IGWP Intercontinental Championship, and it was damn good. If you want to watch something that isn't WWE and you want to cleanse your palate a little bit. Alright, so that's it for the show. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate it. We are going to be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel, bitching about wrestling, just as we do. It's just we have 112 times before. I would like to thank everybody here for sticking around for another WrestleMania season. Let's see if we can have another year of this, guys. That'd be kind of cool. You can check us out online, sparksdoc.com. It's our website where we have all our podcasts and stuff like that. Maybe we'll get some more content up during the year. I don't know. But we'll see when summer comes around. You can check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/SmarkSnark. That's where Yankum and myself tweet on Sunday nights when there's a pay-per-view, Monday nights when there's Raw, and sometimes during the week when I'm watching wrestling. And you can check us out on Facebook, facebook.com if you prefer Facebook. You can check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/SmarkSnark if you want to catch the podcasts there. And we also have a email if you would like to be on the show and you are a promoter or an independent wrestler and you would like to, talk about your experience, or you'd like to, bring up your promotion and expand it to an audience of people that actually enjoy professional wrestling. Please do not hesitate to email us at smarksnark@gmail.com. Thank you all for listening, and take care. Spike your hair.
Woo, woo, woo.
You know it.
Good night, Hillsborough.